As always, Casey, you are a beautiful legend. Hold on real quick. We're about to get started. Hope you're doing well, brother. Today we're not gonna wait too long because we have an academy members meeting soon, so we gotta hurry up and get things done real quick. So today we're not gonna wait too long. It's gonna just about to start. Of course, as always, I believe you can hear me well, or rather, you should be able to hear me well. You're my number one super fan. The rest are fakes. Hilarious. Now, all jokes aside, let's talk real quick. Let's do this real quick for those who are not able to watch this now. Let's do this real quick for you. And let's do this for, like I said, to those who will watch later. So, real quick, 1 minute, not really interesting since we have, give or take, about 2 hours left for this session. Not all that interesting, will probably remain within the framework of the current channel. So again, nothing all that astounding, nothing that we sort of can't anticipate. On the other hand, if we're looking at the current 5 minutes momentum, it's far more bullish. So it stands to reason that it will meet that resistance level before the session ends. So we are probably gonna bounce back up to 7,803, 4, 5 maybe, give or take within that vicinity. Of course, will take a little while since we're just starting to pick up in terms of momentum. Now let's see if that is true. That will be true only if we'll see bullish momentum right here on the 30 minutes, which we're seeing a confluence, a crossover, basically a mixture of the forces. So neither will be dominant, since the direction, the trajectory of this channel is still downward. So it's safe to assume that we're about to see more spill over downwards. Yes, all good, wonderful. And so this basically, the 30 minutes is far more indicative that today's session, even though between now and then we might see a little bullish upwards movement towards 7,800, on the grand scheme of things, it appears that we're far more likely to either balance back down or try to find back our median, which resides roughly at around 7,766, or that 7,760 handle, call it that. 45 minutes. 45 minutes is in agreement with the 30 minutes, which basically emphasizes and reinforces, fortifies the probability, the possibility of the downtrend. So that becomes a little bit more likely. Of course, that will remain true if we will see something similar in the hourly chart. That will be indicative of a continuation downwards, or rather a stronger force affecting the market throughout a longer duration. That means lower outcome if it is bearish, higher outcome if it is bullish. So let's switch to the 1 hourly. 1 hourly has become, or at least right now temporarily, since we haven't really hit the 80 mark, the ceiling of the RSI, or no, I wouldn't call it ceiling, but rather the ceiling of the neutral zone, the direction determining zone, which anything and everything, as we know, above a 50 and between 50 and 80, as you can read right above me, basically is more so bullish than bearish, and yet it is still neutral, so not definitive of the direction we're going to move. And oftentimes we see the price action establish more of a sideways action if we remain stuck within the framework between the 20 and the 80. Basically, when we often far more likely to see actual bullish price action is when we cross over above the 80 and run high for some time. That results, as you can see, pretty much this one wave represents this entire movement to the upside. And so likewise, right now, normally when we see the price action drop lower and remain within the oversold territories, when we get shorting periods or downturn periods, when we get a mixture of the forces as such, yes, we get some volatility, but basically it is all sideways. It's not anything significant. Some would argue that the current all-time high, the newly established all-time highs matter. I would argue that not. It's just merely the conditions that the market is going through, and so a little bit of bullish sentiment, a little bit of bullish narrative spilled over and played its way in the market. And we did say that we expect a correction to the upside toward 7,000 7,533. Then we had a bit of an excessive movement. That was the range we were expecting to see, a bit of an excessive movement. Now we're still sort of moving within the framework of that, even though that feels a little bit higher. Irregardless, that appears that the market is aiming or building up bearish momentum, or rather transitioning into profit taking and a sell-off of sorts. And again, that will be more so true if we will see the very same phenomena on the 4 hours. 4 hours is the one area where it sort of stumbles us a little bit. And although, just like before, as I presented, as we are on a downtrend downwards right now, obviously pretty clearly, yet we are seeing entanglement and a retest around the 50, which is far more indicative of bullish price action, which, surprise, surprise, we actually have seen. And that divergence is not looking too healthy. That divergence, if anything, implies the idea that we may end up testing higher. It is better be good. I post 10 hours version of Epic sucks gut for this. Well. Yes, it's good. Yes, of course it's good. What do you mean? I don't waste my time on nothing not good. So in reality, we have to acknowledge that this appears to be a little bit more bullish and may end up testing slightly higher than I said earlier. So 7,837, which is the current resistance area, the current ceiling of our channel, which we have acknowledged multiple times and they know to be true. In fact, right now, technically, we're still moving within the framework of that very channel. We've tested these levels multiple times, acknowledged the support and resistance levels, so we know this level to be true. Now, so what are we seeing right now? Basically, we may be seeing a potential move. Yep. Those who know, he's actually very epic. If you're talking about the cone sex guy, he is phenomenal. He is fucking good, like really good. His beats are just on point. I hope we're talking about the same one. Yeah. I mean, 10 sessions, 10 hours, that's heavy. So, anyway, back to our horses. In reality, when we switch to our daily chart, we were going to realize that we're actually testing a median and not resistance. Of course, we have been seeing that transition from the edge of the left edge of the channel to the right edge of the channel. I argued earlier that we may ended up already seeing some of that test, and right now we're testing median. Some people would argue that we're still on our way up. I would argue it's problematic to do if your bullish momentum is gonna run out. Now here we stumble upon a very serious problem. The weekly, just like the 4 hours, is bullish. Unlike the 4 hours, we are below the 50 range, which means this is far more neutral than it appears, yet it's so strong that we got this outcome. How meaningful is this? Again, I gotta stay objective, and most of you guys know I am expecting to see an overall outcome of a larger head and shoulders, basically a significant downtrend, if you want to call it a pullback, retracement, correction, whatever the screw you want to call it. But my estimate roughly stands at 5,847. The longer that process endures, the longer we sort of stretch it out, the lower the connection point will be. We do think that there is an area that will be retested, 6,000 area, 6,100 area. There is a sort of handful of support and resistance levels that are technical and thus will be tested. On top of it, on our way down, of course, we have our 6,666, which will be acknowledged and retested, a couple of gaps that we left behind. And those who didn't notice recently, we've been actually testing another psychological level, which we've been in the vicinity of. Don't be surprised, 7,777. To the naked eye, it appears that we kind of crossed through without stopping too much, but in reality, if you're gonna look at your continuous contract, and I plug in our 7,777, this is where it was more so tested than the regular contract, you're gonna realize that actually it has been quite strong. In fact, it's been tested. As you can see, this is the same attempt. This is all the same attempt. This is all the same attempts to retest 77. Why did it move? Why is it 87? Did I get it wrong? Yes, I got it wrong. Should be a little lower. Yeah, doesn't matter though. You get the point. You get the point. So basically, this range already played a role, and that was a psychological level we retested. Yeah, was pretty sure we have another retest. I guess I was wrong. The recent one was that one, and currently we're basically testing it again. Now we're just above it, and we're probably about to retrace to it a little bit in a little while. So that is that confluence between thanks guy. Wait, sure, I saw something new being written. I guess I was wrong. So the current destination near term is this, is the support of the current channel. So that roughly sits at around 7,781. And so thus, when we're going to spill over and slip, we're going to try and test 7,777 again. I know this is a mouthful and annoying to be repeated so many times, but it's true. Psychological levels are a real thing, and been sort of retested multiple times, and probably will be retested again. Blah, blah, blah. Now let's go to our weekly where we stopped, which was bullish, if you guys remember. By the way, the two of you, or three of you, or four of you, how many there is of you guys, don't forget to smash the like button, and well, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Those who here are subscribed. I know I'm not exactly carrying the most popular opinion right now, but I don't mind. It's about being objective and not trying to win a popularity contest. So unfortunately here, actually, if we're looking at our monthly, we are seeing something that I didn't really want to see, but it is what it is, and we got to acknowledge it. We are, since the month is not locked in yet, and since we have about 12 days left for this month, we got to ask ourselves these 12 days whether they will determine a continuation downwards, or will we see a little bit more of this hang around and retest, and so maybe result in a little bit more bullish price action. We have to acknowledge, even though all that bullish momentum that spilled over into the system did not change our quarterly, which is still bearish dominant. I know, hard to see, you would think that's bullish, but I would prompt people to look at the Nasdaq, which is a parallel asset, and is quite indicative of the broader directionality of the market, just like the S&P usually is. But since the S&P right now seems to be pushing a little higher for liquidity that is basically injected into the S&P in particular, that kind of misleads people not to realize that in reality, our quarter, on the grand scheme of things and cyclically wise, has already turned around, remained bearish, and will probably remain and will reinforce so towards the end of the month. In fact, our monthly on the Nasdaq has already turned around and has become bearish. It's just that most people are blind to it because they don't want to see it, and they want to just get a biased opinion that confirms whatever will benefit them, which is a bullish portfolio. Most people are bullish. Unfortunately, they are blind to the actual rules and what is going on in the market. And my job, and so the thing I always used to do, is bring out the objective analysis, whether I like it or not. If anyone here thinks I enjoy having that bearish stance, I will remind you that when everybody else were bearish during the COVID period, when everybody has become bearish right here and was confident and sure that from here on out basically crash and everything will be bad, I was the only bull around that was able to foresee that we will have a bullish correction. Of course, I did not foresee it to be that major. I actually expected it to collapse. If we're looking at the Nasdaq, I actually expected it to collapse by 20,000-ish area, not because of this line, different reasons. Worst case scenario, roughly 23, 24, but definitely not hitting 30,000. That is utter insanity. Unfortunately, does not change my expectation and analysis with regards to how deep and horrible the downtrend will be. Again, it's not something that I'm in favor of or trying to convince the market. Obviously, me with my 4 viewers, not going to change the direction of the market, obviously. But I am just simply here to give you the interpretation and analysis and what the market is trying to scream and yell at you. Of course, by the way, we are still seeing that bullish momentum on the weekly on the Nasdaq as well, so we got to anticipate that it's not going to happen tomorrow that the market will crash, although it can, because we're so overdue, so to speak. Momentum, structure wise, you name it, all of the above and then some. And so those who are blind right now will think that is a bullish signal, and will inject more liquidity into the market. Will unfortunately end up losing in the long run. That is not a new occurrence. In fact, I will be probably discussing this with my Academy members. I'm about to bring out one of our members that have been through multiple cycles in such a way, and as confident as that member was, that uncertain of the market being bullish, unfortunately it plays out consistently in this very cyclical psychological way where it basically crashes and over time makes the broader public capitulate, where the market makers starting to pick back up from the broader public, and we basically start the cycle over again. And unfortunately the broader public does capitulate. Believe it or not, it's not at the bottom of the downtrend as much as it's at the bottom of the downtrend, but then being sort of prolonged, stagnating within the very same range, and that just becomes painful. Inflationary periods make it even more so painful, and people end up capitulating. This is it's not something new. In fact, we can see these cycles for about every 10 years or so, and we can see more so major cycles that play out exactly in the way I've just described every 30 years or so. More so, in fact, there is the 100-year cycle, which plays out in a very similar way as well. But that is a broader cycle that most people are not aware of, and since you're not aware of it, you cannot play into it, so to speak. Plus, it's kind of irrelevant for most people because our lifespans are just kind of short. Most people get to enjoy 1 or 2 30-year cycles. That's kind of the best case scenario. So, I mean, think about it. 2 30-year cycles are 60 years. That is it, I think. I got to plow through everything relatively quickly. There's not a lot more to say beyond that. Again, I know it's not a favorable popular opinion, and everybody's opinion right now is markets to the moon. And I don't mind, let them think that. It's just when the markets will not do that. And I would argue that all the people who were able to stick by would be highly appreciated, and people who capitulated down in the process, well, I can't treat you any other way as sort of, yeah, like, I mean, with all the respect, you don't give me respect, I don't expect me to give you any later down the line when you're gonna come back expecting me to somehow give you a magical solution that you should have listened to right now. Unfortunately, this is a reality where people don't pay attention unless they realize that this is right in front of them and about to hit them in the face, or already hitting them in the face. So I would argue that don't be misled by what we're seeing on a quarterly on the S&P. Don't be misled on what we're seeing on the monthly on the S&P. If anything, if you really want to get a clearer view of where we're headed, look to the NASDAQ and you will have a better, clearer view of where the directionality of the market is setting up. Love you all. Academy members, I will see you in the meeting in about 35, 40-ish minutes, and we'll get to discuss plug and all sorts of wonderful things that are coming up on our radar. Those who don't know and will somehow find this video and will watch it later, I highly recommend you join the community. Of course, I highly recommend you join and you learn, truly study one-on-one with me, where I tutor people how to analyze charts, understand all the technical facets, and be able to know really where the market is headed, be independent, not be dependent on the market makers that basically bullshit you and give you double speak all the time for their own purposes. Academy members, don't forget, you now need to sign up for our tier 2 for the monthly meetings, for the weekly meetings rather. Here it is. That is the tier. Of course, don't forget to take advantage of the monthly the discount, whatever you want to call it, promo thing that you can use for all these, and basically pay $12 a month instead of $15. That makes more sense. That's it, ladies and gents. I will see you on the next one, and